Good morning, sir. Good morning, sir. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. Have a seat.
Thank you, sir.
So, Shreya,
Yes,
your full name is Shreya Shree, or
Yes.
Shree is your mother's name, or
Shree is my last name. My mother's name is Sangeeta.
okay. So, Shreya is your last name.
Shreya is my first name.
First name.
Shree is my
Shree
last
is your
name.
last name. Okay. So, you are from Jabalpur, Madhya Pradesh,
Yes, sir.
and you have optional is economics, and you have done your bachelor in economic sciences
Yes,
from IIT Kanpur.
yes, sir.
Strange mixture because it's an IIT and economics, and you have worked as in research. Uh, what is the designation which you have?
Research intern, sir.
Intern.
Yes,
Okay. Reading fiction is your hobby,
yes, sir.
and besides that, you are fond of Hindi. You have mentioned somewhere.
Yes, sir.
So is
I-
it fiction in Hindi mostly?
Sir, I mostly read in the English language,
Mhm.
mainly because I come from a family that is not very proficient in English, and I wanted to improve my language skills. While writing, though, my expression is primarily in Hindi, and even in my college years, I served as the coordinator or the head of the Hindi Literary Society.
Okay. All right. So, are you aware about some of the great Hindi poets?
So I've read some of them. So should I mention?
So
a few?
yeah, so can I give you two lines and can you tell me if you know?
I can try, sir.
नर हो न निराश करो मन को कुछ काम करो.
I've read this poem, but I'm not very sure about the poet.
Okay, Mathili Sharan Gupta. Now, what do you know about Mahadevi Verma and Ramdhari Singh Dinkar?
Sir, they are two of the four pillars of the Chayavadi movement in
Okay.
Hindi
all right.
literature.
What about Jaishankar Prasad?
Sir, I'm not very much aware of his work.
Which is regarded as the most important सर्वश्रेष्ठ हिंदी कहानी किसको माना जाता है? Which story is regarded as the best story in Hindi? The author had written hardly 5 or 6 stories in his lifetime.
Sir, I'll have to read more.
He comes from Rajasthan. Any idea?
I'm afraid not, sir.
Have you not read a story called Usne Kaha Tha? You have not read it?
No, sir.
Okay. No, we'll go to some of that. Now tell me, we are now talking about something which is called as independent cinema. Have you heard about independent cinema? So what is independent cinema?
Sir,
And
I
can you
have-
give some examples of independent cinema?
Sir, I have very little experience in that field. My understanding is that independent cinema is that which does not come from established production houses,
Correct.
but rather filmmakers on their own
Uh-huh.
make these cinema. And
Can you give one or two films which can be termed as independent cinema?
sir, I'm afraid I do not have much interest in the field, so
You are not interested in
I
it.
can't
Okay.
name.
So there are many. So Jallikattu and Lunchbox, even the Kashmir Files, which have been produced recently, that is generally termed as independent cinema. All right. Now, can you tell me some of the strengths of Madhya Pradesh? If you have to sell Madhya Pradesh to a foreign dignitary, a group of dignitaries, what will you say? Why they should come and invest in Madhya Pradesh?
So the biggest strength of Madhya Pradesh is the recent rise of its agricultural prowess.
Okay.
Currently, it is one of the largest producer states of wheat,
Mhm.
and the Sharbati wheat is known for its quality nationwide.
Okay, that is one. What else?
And second would be, sir, the
So, but why would they like to come for wheat? I mean, I'm asking you a specific question. You are selling Madhya Pradesh.
yes,
Why would they? Why should they come? Yes, you are talking about the strengths of Madhya Pradesh, but why should they come and invest? Why should they not go to Gujarat or to Haryana or to any other state? Why should they come to Madhya Pradesh?
Sir, Madhya Pradesh can offer large tracts of land, and we also have the recent renewable power source in
Okay, so
Rewa.
one is the cost of land, it will be minimal here.
Yes, sir.
The second is renewable energy sources. All right. What is
Yes,
the
sir.
third one?
So third could be the interaction with the tribals, and we have a recent push towards traditional medicines.
Okay.
And some of the tribes in Madhya Pradesh, their knowledge of these traditional medicines is extensive, but it has not so far been researched in an institutional manner.
Okay, and then what is the next one? Any other things about the culture, about the food, about the
So,
many things
to
typical of Madhya Pradesh? And
so,
what about other infrastructural facilities which are there?
so, in terms of the tourism industry, people can come along the Narmada circuit, where the Narmada originates in Madhya Pradesh in Amarkantak Hills, and that is a very beautiful place indeed. And by the time it reaches Jabalpur, we have Dhuadhar Fall, which at present the natural beauty of this place is very beautiful. However, its entire tourism potential has not so far been exploited.
My last question to you would be, what is this Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav? What is Amrit about it, and what is Mahotsav about it, and what exactly does it mean? It has been hugely popularized by the government. So, can you throw some light on Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav?
Sir, Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav is mentioned because we are in the 75th year of independence, and we are entering, as our Honorable Prime Minister has named it, the Amrit Kal, between the 75th and the 100th year of independence, where we pursue structural reforms in several fields and reach our highest potential, not just economically but also culturally.
Thank you, Ashokji.
This war between Russia and Ukraine going on, 2 months have already gone. In what ways does it show opportunities for India?
Sir, first of all, as our Honorable Minister has said, India does not look for opportunities out of adversities. That being said, we are exporting, we are coming up as an reliable partner for export of wheat to countries that need it. So that is a place where our export potential can be exploited, and we are also negotiating at the WTO to remove the restrictions related to MSP based procurement of wheat for exports.
Can you explain your last sentence again? Remove the MSP based procurement. What?
So remove the restrictions on for the food grains that are procured under MSP or similar regimes for food security. They are not allowed to be exported under the current WTO rules. So we are also negotiating so that we are allowed to export them.
Are you aware of the current wheat procurement cycle that is going on?
Sir, I do not have much data on it.
The reports are saying that the procurement by FCI is coming down. It is much less than last year.
I'll have to look into it.
Most of the wheat is being bought by private sector to export. Now suppose the wheat is exported in great quantity. What will happen?
If we support, if we export more than the surplus production, if we support out of the basic needs that are for India's population, then we can face rising prices as well as hunger in our own country as well.
There are reports that wheat production also has gone down this year. In that condition, should we not ban exports right away?
So, we must also notice that we already have large stockpiles of wheat in the FCI. What we can do is to have a balance between export and our domestic needs. And
If there were stockpiles, the government would not be releasing rice instead of wheat.
yes, sir, in the recent PM, I think.
Very recently, the government of India has released rice replacing wheat to several states.
I've read on this.
Okay. And any other opportunity that the war has thrown for India?
So, our diplomatic engagements have risen across the spectrum. We saw the visits of various dignitaries to our country. Sir.
Now, there is a coal shortage going on in the country, and therefore correspondingly power shortage. Why has this coal shortage occurred?
So, first of all, is the usual pattern of hike in demand during the summer months has been a reason for coal shortage over several years. In this particular year, it has further been exacerbated because due to the pandemic, the production of coal, the levels had fallen, and however, after the sharp spike in the economic activity, the production levels have not been commensurately increased, and this has made the crisis even more severe than it used.
Anything to do with the international scenario?
So, oil prices are also rising, so it is the shift of energy consumption pattern towards coal is also increasing demand.
Shift of energy towards coal-based energy.
Yes, there is a short term. Coal is a cheaper source of energy than oil. So,
Okay.
So, what is Section 124A and why it was in news? It is consistently in news
uh,
of IPC Indian Penal Code.
the section 124A deals with sedition, and it is generally in news because it has this provision has been used to curb freedom of speech in certain aspects when there is hateful.
Why it was enacted?
So, it was enacted during the colonial regime itself to basically curb our nationalist movement.
Nationalist movement. So, you support that it should be removed because it's in a democratic state. What is your opinion on that?
So, the sedition law, which was enacted in India by the United Kingdom, it has been removed there. So there is a precedent for removing the act here as well. But it will depend on how we deal with speech and with hate speech and violence, and
You support or not? Should it be removed or
so it should be removed.
it should be removed? Okay. So, can you differentiate between freebies and public good?
Yes, sir. So
Public goods, precisely.
public goods have two basic qualities. They are non-excludable and non-rival. So, on the other hand, sir, freebies are generally termed the dole-outs that come from the state towards the public.
Is it the state or the politicians or the political parties who are responsible for that?
So, the political parties are only able to give it when they become part of the state itself. They promise it during the elections, but the freebies are given only by the state or central governments when they are in power. So it's basically from the state.
So, what is your opinion on that? We should allow the political parties to dole out this kind of freebies and lead to a Sri Lanka-like situation.
So here we cannot have a blanket ban because some of the freebies are merit goods in the sense that they impact not just the direct beneficiaries but also the society at large. So these handouts cannot be curbed, and especially in the face of rising inequality in the country. However, other freebies that only have a positive impact for the direct beneficiary, for those we can work towards alternative structures where those benefits are available through a more institutionalized manner and to a wider part of the society.
Can you name which are the freebies which are actually necessary or which can be creating a good impact on the society? An example?
Sir, for example, the Har Ghar Nal Se Jal scheme, water coming to the people. It is not exactly a freebie, but it is a merit good because water and sanitation are essential for our health and well-being.
Okay. You have worked in the French embassy as a intern. What was your work profile?
Sir, I was working as a research intern in the Centre de Science and Humans. It is a think tank in partnership with the French government. And my work was in educational inequality in the Indian perspective. Sir.
So, how do you see the Indian education system with respect to the French education? You might have studied. So, what are the main differences between the same?
My study did not include.
Acha, it did not include it. Okay. So, what was the hierarchy of the embassy? Can you tell me the highest official in the embassy who represents?
Sir, highest official is generally the ambassador, but we did not deal with the embassy aspect, but rather limited ourselves to the think tank.
Thank you.
Your coordinator for Hindi Sahitya Sabha. How you will define Sahitya, the literature, in one sentence?
Sir,
Only one sentence here.
Sahitya has been called mirror to the society. Sahitya Samaj ka aina hai. I think that's the most apt description of literature.
Good. Now, what is the importance of Narmada Valley to Madhya Pradesh?
Sir, Narmada has been called the lifeline of Madhya Pradesh because it is the most important river for supplying of water to.
Why it is different from all other rivers?
So it flows in a rift valley. The Narmada has not carved out its own path, but rather it flows due to the tectonical shifts caused the rift valley to form, and it flows.
That is the only reason.
That is what I.
It is perennial or it is seasonal?
It's a perennial.
Oh, it's perennial. Because there is no permanent source. It's not from any glacier.
It fills through the mainly through the rainwater, and it has several.
The rainwater, then if it is dependent on rainwater, then it will be seasonal.
But it contains water throughout the year.
That's why it is perennial. But what is the reason? From where it gets its water? You study more on that. Okay. Now tell the importance. Why it is lifeline here?
Because of its role in the agriculture of the state as well as the culture of the state, sir. Because in Jabalpur itself, sir, there is a Narmada Aarti at Gauri Ghat, which.
Okay, religious, I understand. Then agriculture. What?
Sir, some canal systems at the local level as well as some dams are used for irrigation purpose.
Dams are also there. Which are the important ones?
Sir, I can remember Bargi Dam. It is in Jabalpur district.
You have the biggest dam.
The biggest dam is in Rajasthan, if I.
Rajasthan is not.
I can't remember the dam.
Talking about Narmada. Narmada Dam.
So I can't remember.
Indra Sagar, you have not heard? Indra Sagar Dam, the biggest dam in Madhya Pradesh. Okay, your hydel power source is very important one. 35 big dams on the Narmada itself. Okay, tell me, there is general perception about the police that it is inefficient and corrupt. Suppose you are appointed as an SP of a district, what will be your priority to eradicate this corruption?
Sir, as an SP of the district, my first step would be to understand what is causing the corruption and.
Everybody knows what is causing the corruption. Now it is well known in the last 75 years. So what are the sources of corruption? What are the reasons?
Sir, it would still be prudent to establish the local conditions that are causing corruption there. And next, if the corruption is because of the lack of facilities to the police officers.
Lack of facilities to the police officers. You give whatever facilities, the corruption will remain there. It is not because of facilities.
So my understanding is that a lack of income.
Suppose you give more money, more like you see facilities to police officers, there will not be any corruption.
I can compare with the defense services, where the defense personnel get adequate healthcare and education facilities, and at the lower levels, especially, there is.
They don't have much opportunities, but wherever there is opportunity, even in the defense, there is a corruption.
It's not as expansive.
Not as high as in the police. Okay, thank you.
Shreya,
Yes, ma'am.
economics. Given the decline in the economy, what kind of a recovery are we looking at now? Is there a recovery? That's my first question. And what kind of a recovery? Any alphabet you can pick up and tell me what kind of a recovery is it?
Ma'am, currently, we are seeing a K-shaped recovery where some of the sectors are rapidly recovering and have even breached the pre-pandemic levels. For example, the services sector, the IT sector specifically in the services sector, it has been above the pre-pandemic levels. However,
What is K-shaped recovery?
when some sectors perform better than the other and they are recovering at a faster pace, so they look like the upper arm of the K, whereas the other sectors are still in slowdown or in a much slower growth, so they form the lower arm of the K.
So a sharp divergence.
Yes.
Okay.
The rest of the sectors. So, in the lower arm of the K shape, we have sectors like the contact intensive services sector, as well as the MSMEs, who have been seeing a crunch since the pandemic.
Okay. Your other subject is mathematics.
I have not
Economics, maths.
formally studied mathematics after.
Okay. When is the National Mathematics Day?
Ma'am, it is on 22nd December.
Why?
It marks Srinivasa Ramanujan's birthday.
What is Vedic mathematics?
Vedic mathematics refers to shorthand techniques, as I understand, for solving larger calculations. I think the methods arise from our older scriptures and texts, but I'm not very sure.
Not sure. Please read on Vedic mathematics because the PM has been talking about it recently. Foreign service is your second choice. So the recent happenings, if you look at the Ukraine-Russia war, you also look at the COVID, the emergence of COVID, so-called a lab in China. Do you think the world bodies have lost their relevance? Do we need to restructure them, reform them? And don't give these two examples, give other examples.
So, there is certainly a need for restructuring of the global bodies. For example, the WTO. There we have seen that the dispute settlement body has come to a standstill because there is a need for consensus in appointing the uh, arbitrators there, and USA has been blocking that in the recent years. And you've already mentioned the failure of WHO in terms of.
No, I haven't. I'm saying in the light of the recent happenings. I didn't say they have failed.
So, should I use that example
Yeah,
to
yeah.
explain? So, in case of WHO as well as the UN Security Council, the presence of veto powers in the UNSC has restricted its role in the Ukraine crisis because Russia, who is the aggressor in this case, has been using its veto to stop actions against itself. So there is certainly a need of reforms where more democratization is required in the international bodies.
Reforms are required or they should be disbanded. They've lost their relevance.
Ma'am, they cannot lose their relevance so long as we are in a globalized world, and we need to have a forum to talk on the issues of importance, and they do provide that. We need to strengthen them so that the dialogue that occurs there also translates into action, and action that benefits all, not just a smaller group that has power.
Okay, my last question. Is Hindi the national language?
No, ma'am. Our constitution does not declare any national language. Hindi has been called the official language.
Thank you.
Okay. So, Shreya, we will take you back for a few minutes to the waiting room. We'll bring you back again for giving our views and your feedback.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
So, just to stay there for a few moments, we'll call you. Okay, Shreya, so when is your interview fixed?
17th May, sir.
Okay, so you almost have about 12, 13 days. 17th of May.
Yes, sir.
The first time you are going to appear at the CSE interview?
Yes, sir.
Interview is the first time.
Yes.
Okay, tell us, how do you think you fared at this mock interview, which lasted for almost 20, 25 minutes?
Sir, in some areas I could have done better in terms of preparation and articulation.
Which are the areas?
For example, Hindi literature, I'm not prepared in that much depth. And in terms of my state strengths of Narmada River and its dams.
About Madhya Pradesh as such.
Yes.
Okay. So, Shreya, first of all, I'll go to your strengths, which I'm going to talk about. Your mental alertness was very good. Your analytical abilities also are excellent. Your answers were very clear and very logical also. I could see that at no point of time did you try to bluff. So honesty was very much reflected in your answers. The answers were original. They did not seem to be influenced too much by the run of the mill operators or by the coaching institutes, those kind of answers. In most of the cases, we found that there was a lot of originality. By the way, how many mocks have you attended before this?
Sir, I think 5 to 6.
6
final
mocks. And how many mocks to go now after this?
Sir, one more day after tomorrow.
One more. Okay. Okay, so now then other things, your communication skills are very good. Your articulation is very good. Your choice of sentences excellent. Words also very good. And your choice of words, if you were talking about economy, then you were using the words relating to economy. So that again is a very good thing. Rather than using pedestrian or layman words, you were using the specific words meant for that purpose. Okay. Then your facial expressions, very good. Only one thing, that when a question is asked, you should definitely have eye contact with the person who is asking the question. But while answering the question, for some time scan also the entire board, left to right, right to left. Say about 80% of the time you can have eye contact with the panelist, but then remaining 20% just scan quickly left to right, so that everyone feels that you are also having a kind of communication with them also, and you were very confident. So all these things, and I could also one more thing which I will like to point out, good thing, that while sitting there you were able to think. Sometimes people are not able to think while a question is put up to them which they do not know about. So you were able to think also. So these are all strengths which you possess. Coming now to the knowledge part. So there are three things basically you will be judged on. One is your knowledge, the other will be your skills, how well you communicate, and third is your attitude, positivity and rational. You must be rational while giving answers, you must be ethical, and you must also be secular. Okay, so these are the things. Now coming to the knowledge part. Well, most of the cases your knowledge was very good, but as you yourself have said, knowledge about Madhya Pradesh, Narmada, the irrigation projects, the power projects, and the agricultural practices, the cultural aspect, the infrastructure which is there, what are the evils, social evils of Madhya Pradesh, what are its strengths, what are its weaknesses. You should also know the festival, the music, the culture, the dresses, the food habits, everything about Madhya Pradesh, the chief ministers who have remained Madhya Pradesh. Okay? So all things about the temples and religious places. You can read a good book on Madhya Pradesh to have a first-hand knowledge about the state. The second, of course, would be your Jabalpur. So everything about Jabalpur, you should know that. Study the district gazetteer is a good book which you can get from the collectorate or from any department in Jabalpur. Now coming to the economics, your grasp on economics is very good. I would simultaneously suggest to you that you go to the website of Niti Aayog and find out what exactly some of the very, very important sunrise areas. For example, they have planned 75 years hence what exactly is going to happen in India. So a beautiful book they have brought out on that. It is available as free PDF download also. Then you also go through the Reserve Bank of India, Finance Ministry, all the websites, and also study the budget, this year's budget in great detail, and the Economic Survey of India. Also understand the privatization, the word used by Nirmala Sitharaman for the first time, probably in budget. Earlier it used to be disinvestment, divestment, and so on. Also study some of the very important terms like the law of diminishing returns, what is the reverse repo rate and repo rate, and monetary policy and demonetization, and the effects of demonetization, positive, negative, okay, all these things. And then also understand the constitution. So read constitution article by article. You still have a lot of time. You must understand the preamble, the directive principle, the fundamental rights, and many articles, impeachment. What is a writ petition? What are the important provisions of the constitution regarding civil services, the protection enjoyed by them, all India services. That will come only when you read the constitution from beginning to the end. Read the laws which are relevant for women protection and empowerment. So there will be domestic violence and dowry prohibition and POSH, and a plethora of equal remuneration, and then the facilities which are there during the conceiving period, and so the maternity benefits, and also the protection in respect of the sex ratio getting adversely affected. So what are the provisions? You must go through the acts. Also go through the public policies, because many questions may arise out of that. So apni beti apna dhan and beti badhao pe, those all the schemes, uh, then things like Ujjwala Yojana and Swachh Bharat and public policy. Then children, so the Juvenile Justice Act and POXO and other things. Then senior citizens. This again is a very interesting thing. Now a new act is there which says how to protect the senior citizen from being turned out of their houses by their children. And read the social measures which have been done by the government, short stay home, and many such schemes which have been launched. So the pensions and also protection. Then scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. Okay. So this is all you should know. Now coming to the Russia-Ukraine, the situation which was there. So you must know the world order, how it is emerging. And your answer was good when you said that we are not there to exploit the opportunities. It is definitely proving an opportunity, but we will not like to use the Russia-Ukraine war, the situation as it is emerging. So there are the different advantages which India is going to get. You can read about that. One of them you came out very well. And for example, export of wheat, you pointed out that it is taking place now to many countries in the Middle East also it was done. And then of course PDS schemes. So Government of India schemes regarding public distribution system, and so many public other policies like pollution control, Namami Gange, or for Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, or the farmer subsidy. The entire gamut of public policies you should read. One book which I would strongly recommend to you, The 70 Policies That Shaped India. There is a beautiful book on that. You should read that. If you have not read it, it is free download available. 70 Policies That Shaped India. It is up to demonetization, and GST also have been included in that. One paragraph regarding every public policy. And then question regarding rice having replaced in many of the states because of the shortage of the wheat, and therefore, and the ban on exports, the coal shortage, the power shortage. These are all topical issues which you have to understand the current affairs. Before entering the room of the UPSC, your interview, you must read the newspapers up to that time. That will be possible only if you go through the newspaper lying around in the waiting room. There is a waiting room where the newspaper. And then of course sedition law. So IPC, at least some of those provisions which are the current things happening now. So homosexuality and sedition, so many things are there. And then freebies and public good, that of course you were able to come out. And then coming to some other issues like the police, corruption in police. So now you said that the salaries, they need to be increased. If you bring increase, well, basically the corruption is not only because of this. It may be to some extent only, maybe one of the reasons. But right now the salary structure is so good everywhere. At the beginning of the service, one is able to get minimum 40-50,000 rupees at a very uh, junior scale. So that is not the answer. The answer lies somewhere relating to other aspects like ethics, like values, like sanskars, the which have been passed on. So ethical training is very much important. And I would strongly suggest one particular thing, that is called Second Administrative Reforms Commission report by Veerappa Moily, which talks about ethics and governance, which talks about citizen centric administration, which talks about good governance. And good governance is essentially what you will be ultimately implementing as a civil servant. So you must understand what are the values required in a civil servant, and then also simultaneously study the agencies which are there to curb corruption. So the CBI and the vigilance and the institution like CVC, the Lokpal. So the corruption in police is, one reason is that it gives quick results. You see, police gives quick results. So therefore, they can easily commit so many excesses against people, and thereby corruption tends to, increase. So there is a need to first of all have very strong measures against corrupt people through the corruption agencies, inculcate ethics and value them, and generally mentoring by the senior officers is also very necessary. Okay. Now, lastly, I would like to say that the Hindi Sahitya, you were able to come out with the definition well, and then many issues related to uh, the the issues related to the women and other things that you should study in a slightly more detail. And lastly but not the least, I would say that you understand how a district administration works. Okay, you come from Madhya Pradesh, and Madhya Pradesh, the system of governance, how which are the district officers which are there. So besides collector and the superintendent of police, so know the roles of the collector. Okay, so there are many roles. You go through them. The revenue function is one. The magisterial function is the other. The third is election duties. Fourth is the disaster management. Fifth is developmental function. Also, you need to understand what is how the core, how the grassroots level institutions work. So, Panchayati Raj institutions, all the three levels, Panchayat, Gram Panchayat Samiti, and Zilla Parishad, and also urban local bodies. What are the sources of income in a urban local body or in a panchayat? Since economics is your subject, so naturally anything related to revenue, expenditure, then direct taxes, indirect taxes, everything can come under your gamut. That's about it. If do you have any questions to ask? Yeah, sure, sure.
You see, if you see the data compiled by the different anti-corruption bodies, even in your own state, by the anti-corruption bureau in raids, the wealth, you see the money they recover. In one case, it was around 200 crores in Madhya Pradesh. So in most of the cases, it's a huge amount of wealth which they recover. So it is not because of lack of salary, and you see the facilities. It is because of what chairman just now mentioned. It is because of those reasons, not entirely because of less salary.
So, if you have any questions, you can ask us.
So, when talking about the strengths of a state, how should I structure the answer, and what specific area should I focus on?
No, strengths of the state, the typical question, which, for example, is asked, how do you sell your state?
Yes.
Then your aim is to give such an attractive, policy, so that they feel encouraged to come and invest there. So that from that point of view, there you have to talk about the infrastructural facilities. That is the most important. Okay. Then ease of doing business, cost of the land. Okay, then the labor relations, okay, then proximity to the airport, handling operations, distance from the seaport, the transport, the road network. Okay, these are the things. And then besides that, you also need to say that it's a very, very bubbling kind of state which you have a great cultural heritage. So you are going to really feel that you have come to the real part of India. So that is one thing. So basically, where you have to highlight the infrastructure in terms and the ease of doing business, that is the most important. But when you talk about strengths in a general sense, then there are many other things. So that, of course, when you talk about strengths, you can say about the productivity, the production figures, the irrigation facilities, the canal network, the labor relationship, the power situation. Okay, then there are many other aspects to that. But when it is only for the purpose of attracting investment, then basically, why should he come? What is in it for me? It is called WIIFM. What is in it for me? He is going to ask this because he will work purely on profit motive.
motive.
And profit motive will only come when the cost of the land is less, when the ease of doing business is easy, when there are not much corruption in the system, when he is able to transport his goods, market his goods very well. Okay, so these are the area. The power supply is not disrupted, the labor does not raise red flags every other day, irrigation is there, potable water is there, health facilities are there, education facilities are there. So these are the things which he is going to look for, and you must prioritize. So whenever you give answers, first of all, talk about that point which is the most important, and then come to the later part and give examples.
Add to this.
Zarur.
You should also mention about the state's policies with regard to investment. There are industrial policies, investment policies, or any other name could be given to that policy, by which the state government gives certain kinds of incentives to the investors who are coming from outside. And availability of good land at cheaper rate, that is a forte of Madhya Pradesh. You have large industrial areas, well developed industrial areas where land is easily available. So that's a very good selling point. Now, in the current times, like Tata's, they are looking for a location to set up their plant for packaging of the semiconductor chips. That plant they are going to set up, and they are looking at 3-4 states. Madhya Pradesh is not one of them, by the way. But some such thing, the industrialists, the big industries, especially the new and upcoming industries, they look at various states and they compare. A comparative note is prepared by them, and then they finally zero down on one state based on all these things which Chairman Sir has just said and which I am saying to you. Right? So these are the selling points of a state.
Taxation, subsidy, interest subsidy you can offer, the state can offer.
So there are subsidies, incentives, and various kinds of facilities that the state government gives. Maybe relaxation in VAT, GST, state GST.
Just to give an example, Himachal Pradesh, for very long years, it gave huge benefits. So therefore, more and more people came in Baddi and other places, industry. Okay, and it also depends on another factor, the political factor there also. So depending upon who the chief minister is, he is going to stay there. Depending upon how the moral qualities of that chief minister also determine to a great extent. One chief minister, if he is there, then probably the industry would shy away from going to that particular state. But another chief minister may be forward looking and he is really concerned about that.
Sir, so this can be mentioned as political stability.
Political
Stable politics,
Stable
stable
politics.
polity is a very, very important factor.
Yeah, it is.
And thanks
Stable.
incentive based development, Kutch region actually after 2001 developed based on this phenomenon.
So many foreign companies also, they shy away from coming to India because they feel that if the political one political party changes, the government changes, sometimes the policy will change immediately. So they feel that it is not conducive to long term, staying in that country. So you will do very well.
Thank you, sir.
Your otherwise you meet everything exceedingly well. Your communication skills, etc. Everything is fine. Knowledge is also.
See you selected.
I'll
Yeah.
surely work
So
towards
we'll
that.
see you. Yeah, civil servant very soon.
Thank you, sir.
All the
Thank you.
best.
All the best. All the best. All the best.
Thank you.
Unacademy. Let's crack it.